So again, I'm not going to do this every time. In fact, I only plan on doing it today. But for people who weren't here on Monday, I want to take a couple minutes to go over a couple of the things that we went over, protocol, etc., that we went over on Monday. And a couple people have asked this, so I also want to show you inside of Visual Studio how you can change your default directory, all right, and how you can change your font size. So if you think that the font is too small or whatever, and how to put in line numbers if you don't have line numbers shown. So we'll go through all those today. If I forget anything, please tell me, all right? The magical place, so to speak, to go in here once you've logged in, all right, everybody, especially if you weren't here Monday, please make sure you can log in and you don't have any problems logging in. But all the stuff for this class will be out on the P drive. So when you do log in, what you should have there, your desktop won't look like mine, but amongst other things, you should have computer there. If you double click on that, it should show you, and again, yours won't be the same as mine because I have access to like the J drive and the N drive and the Q drive. And I use the J drive once in a while, but I don't even know what the N and Q are. Guess what? I don't care. So I don't think you have access to those. But every one of you should have access to the C drive, which is your hard drive, all right, your desktop. The H drive, now mine says J Scott, yours will be whatever, of course, your login is. That's where you can save any information. That's your space. I can get to your H drive. I will tell you, I can look anybody here in the eye and tell you that the only thing on your H drive that I will ever look for is a folder that's called 152-142 for this class. That's all I'm ever going to look for. Now, please, that said, I don't want to go out to anybody's folder and find, you know, a folder out there called porn. Because when I see stuff like that, I'm not supposed to look at it, but I'm supposed to let my superiors know. We have had situations in here in the past. We had a guy a few years ago. The third time they caught him downloading porn, they kicked him out of the school. All right. You also should have access to the P drive. The P drive is where I put everything. You have read access to what's on the P drive. You do not have write access. I do. So if I want to put something out there and I want you to be able to look at it, I will put it out there on the P drive. So if you look up on the screen here again, under the P drive, there is a folder that's underneath there that's called CIS, and that's basically the 152s are where I put all my stuff. This class is 152-142 C#. So if I click there, there's a folder that says Spring 2015. If I click there, that's where all the magic, so to speak, for the class is. All right. So any articles that I find that I think might pertain to C#, I throw them in there. You don't have to look at them, but they're there. I'll put the homework out here where it says homework. Anything that we do in class. So the other day we went through this stuff. That's out there. Also what's out there is a folder with today's date on it. And guess what? It's got the completed program. It's got everything. Which means what? You don't have to hand it in. All right? Because we're going to go over it. Typically we go through this kind of growing pains for the first week of class. But there it is. Show heads, show tails, and exit. Okay? Boom. So all of that's out there under the today stuff. Also, there'll be some stuff in here. If you notice, I even saved this. How to change fonts and colors. Whoops, I shouldn't have done that, but that's fine. In the editor, and how to change your default location for projects in the editor. I took those right from msdn.microsoft.com. If you've never been out to this site, right here, all right, so if you've never been out there, you don't have to do it right now, but I would suggest sooner or later you go out there. MSDN is Microsoft Developer Network, and that's kind of the key into anything for this class. All right, so if you ever go out there and you've got a question on how to do something in C# and you Google it, sometimes the best things that you're going to find are going to be right out here. Those two things that I found as far as where to how to change your default font size and how to change your default folder, I went out here and found them. All right, actually I Googled them and then I went out here and found them out from Google. All right. Also, if you care, and I'm just telling you this, if you don't care, it's fine. But when I think of these things, I like to throw them at you just so at least you've heard them. Microsoft has got a really nice thing that they've added out there, and if you know me at all, you know that normally when I say Microsoft, I don't say nice in the same sentence. All right, but they have a thing that they made available now, and it's called the Microsoft Virtual Academy.com, and they've got all sorts of free classes and stuff that you can take. You can join it for free. You can take classes for free. You earn points and stuff for free out there. And it's not that if you earn points they give you anything. But if you decide you want to sit for certification tests and stuff, if you've got points, you can get deals on the certification. Sometimes they're like half off or whatever. All right. And if you forget it, I believe, and I'm going to check this real quick, but people, that's too hard to remember, I think, unless they changed it. And again, they may have, so that's what I'm checking for. It used to be if you put in mva.com, it would expand to Microsoft Virtual Academy. It looks like it doesn't have a clue as to what I'm talking about, so maybe they changed that. I don't know. But it looks, I guess it is here. But so if I go out here and I say search, courses, for example, by topic, they have, notice, wow, there's C#. Now some of the stuff that's in here, it's going to be over my head, so it might be over your head. But they've got all sorts of different stuff in here, and for instance, if last semester you didn't feel like you gained requisite knowledge, for example, from let's say the JavaScript class, they've got Jumpstart JavaScript in here, they've got Jumpstart jQuery in here, they've got all sorts of stuff. Sometimes there is a series of lectures, each of which might be up to an hour long. But you can watch them right on the screen. You can download them, I think. At least you used to be able to download the MP4s if you wanted. That helps Luke. All right. So you can do stuff like that. So if you got a slow internet connection or whatever, you can even download this stuff. But there's some nice stuff out there. All right. End of that. The other thing that I want to mention, and again, I'm just trying to say this quickly, and I'm not trying to waste too much time. I've already probably wasted enough. But again, the other stuff that's out there is all the source code for the book is out on the P drive. All the PowerPoints for the book are out there on the P drive. I found out yesterday, I'm not able to, I think there's a problem with my PowerPoint on this machine, so I can't bring up PowerPoints. Okay? So I'm not going to bring up any PowerPoints. Not that that's a real big loss, but I can't anyway. I've already sent in a help ticket, so hopefully they can fix that. So I can't prove to you that those things work, but all the ones for the book should be out there. Okay? And they're out there both in unzipped and in zip format. All the source code that's in your book is out there. Sometimes that's the best way to learn, is just sit there and make a copy of a folder. So for chapter 1, there's something in there called wage calculator. You can literally take that, drag it out onto your virtual desktop, which we'll talk about in a minute, open it up, play with it till your heart's content. If you screw it up, you just come back to the P drive here and copy it over again, or make a copy when you do it the first time. That's the best way to learn anyway. You're going to learn a lot more in this class from just working on projects, bouncing stuff off of each other, talking to the lab assistants, than you are through lecture. All right. The other thing, too, that's in here is the syllabus. I went over it last time. I don't want to go over it again. The only things that I do want to mention to you, that's my information, including office hours, class description, course description, book description if you don't have the book, the competencies for the class, and it tells you here that all the stuff is available out on the P drive where I just showed you, and under Blackboard, which I'm going to show you in a minute. All right, so that's all I wanted to say about that. Again, I'm supposed to keep asking you this, so if you have not gone out to the new My BTC Portal, which is right here, no, it's not. There, you're supposed to go out there. When you go to Blackhawk, there should be some kind of a link someplace on the front under information technology or something that says My BTC. You go there, you log in the exact same way that you log in when you are logging in the morning, so you use the same login. You go to login here, and again, I have not customized my page at all, but yours should look at least somewhat similar, and you should have a Blackboard listing in here. If you click the Blackboard, that's got everything. Yours won't look like this. Yours will have all of the classes for which you're registered, that where the instructor has put something in there for Blackboard. If they don't put anything in there, it might not, or might not even show. I don't know. But for me, so that'll be under the Intro to .NET Programming. And again, all mine are set up with the same kind of shell. There's the syllabus in both Word and PDF formats. There'll be the course evaluation that you'll fill out, and we'll fill that out at the 9-week point and at the end of the semester. All the videos are in here. You can already see the ones from last Monday are in here. All right. I'm not going to unplug my mic so you won't hear it through here, but if I click on here, this is what it looks like. It brings you out to YouTube. So this is what we went over the other day. It's my voice and the machine. All right. So you don't see me at all. You may occasionally hear a student. All right. If they ask a question, I try to remember when they ask a question to repeat it, but sometimes I forget. All right. So that stuff's out there. Again, the source for the book, not only on the P drive, but here. The PowerPoints for the book, not only on the P drive, but here. What we go over in class. So that's what we did the other day. That's here. Homework will be put out here. And there is a discussion board out here also for you. All right. So hopefully there are no questions on that, because what I want to do is basically, if you have not yet gotten into the virtual desktop, and I don't know if you have or not, if you weren't here the other day, I want to show you quickly how to do that. So those of you who were here the other day, if you're not in the virtual desktop, please get into the virtual desktop right now. And if you remember how, please start up Microsoft Visual Studio 2013 right now. Again, I may or may not have said this to you the other day, but I want to make sure you hear it. I think we said it when Terry was here and I had all my screw-ups. Again, you can get to the virtual desktop in two ways. You can get to it right from typing in desktops.blackhawk.edu. You can do that from any browser window, and that'll get you in. That gets you in from the browser. That's what you may or may not want to use from home. Terry has said that's not as robust as getting in the other way, in his opinion, but it should work. All right? So that's the first way that you can get in. The other way is, ideally at least, all of you are going to have on your desktop, you're going to have an icon here that kind of looks like a window or whatever you want to call it, that says VMware Horizon Client. And if you double click on it, and I'm not going to double click on this because I'm already in, but if you double click on that, you have to log in, and that'll get you in also. All right, so if you're not into the virtual desktop, hopefully you can get in right now. Every single person who's in this class, I double checked with Terry, and I also made sure that John and Ben and Mike have virtual desktops too. The advantage of doing this, again, is you should be able to do this from your home. All right, so you get your P drive and your H drive from home. The only thing I will say about that is, if you want to use it from home on your home machine, and we may not have said this the other day, but you are going to have to download the virtual client. And if you had the virtual client last year, the recommendation is you download the new one, because they've upgraded the hardware and the software for it. So you go out to the Blackhawk website, you go to Online Services, and you click Information Technology. Then under Information Technology, you click Information Technology. And then as you go down, you'll notice about halfway down it says Virtual Desktops. So you click there. You only have to do that if you're doing it from home. All right. You read all this stuff because we always do. This says you're not going to download porn or anything else and do anything you're not supposed to do. So you click I agree, and it pushes you off to here. Now, if you want to go and download the client on your own machine at home, you'll choose this one right there. Install VMware Horizon Client. All right, and that'll push you off, and you should. You have to know whether you have a 64-bit or a 32-bit machine. Most people, if your machine is within the last 5 years, is probably 64-bit. So you want to download the 64-bit Windows client unless you've got a Mac. I've already have one person in here who told me they had a Mac, and hopefully that worked for you when you tried it the other day. I don't know, did it work? Okay. Okay, what I would tell you then is try it again, and if it still doesn't work, then what I'd recommend is come in with your Mac, bring it over to IT, which is right next to the library. Ask if Terry's there, or if you can set up an appointment with him and have him look at it. All right? I mean, I'll be glad to look at it, and I may or may not be able to help you, but he can like that because he's just such a whiz. John might be able to help you too. John knows a hell of a lot more than I do. All right. All right. So that's that. Hopefully then by now everybody was able to get into the virtual desktop. Okay? Yes. You still don't. All right, well, I told him I will go up and talk to him again during the break. That should be so easy for them to do. That's literally flicking a switch. So why that wasn't done, I wish I could tell you. All right. So if you're in the virtual desktop, a couple things. First of all, I'm in the virtual desktop now if you look. So this is a virtual desktop. And that's the non-virtual. They really don't look very different. My icon size is a little different between the two, but they don't look very different. When you're in the virtual desktop, all right, the recommendation is when you're in there and you're all done for the day, it depends on what you want to do. What I mean is, let's suppose that you've got class with me from 8 to 10 and you're not in the 10 o'clock class, but you're in the 1 o'clock class, okay? If that's the case, you may not even want to log off, do the regular log off. You may just want to click the X that's right there. And what that does is it kind of takes a snapshot of your screen, but it keeps all that stuff up there. So the next time you get in again, you'll be right where you were before. The other thing to realize too, because people have asked me about this before, you have only one virtual desktop. So if you leave it on here and you go home and you log in from home, it'll kick you off here, or vice versa. It automatically does that, because you can have only one instance running at a time. All right. The other thing, and I said this the other day, but I'm going to keep saying it, this is a desktop. I don't have access to your virtual desktop. Anything you put on there is yours. If you don't back it up, you either bring in a flash drive or, from your virtual desktop, you can go to your H drive and you can copy stuff there. But if you don't do that, and for some reason, it usually happens maybe once a semester to 1 or 2 people, somehow your virtual desktop gets corrupted. And Terry can rebuild it, but you lose everything that's on there then. There's nothing anyone can do to bring it back. All right, so I'll keep saying that, but it's important that you realize that that's the way that it is. All right. The other thing too is if the virtual desktop seems sluggish, that for some reason it just doesn't seem like it's working correctly. You've been on it for a while. Then the suggestion is you go to Start and you go over to Windows Security that you see right there. And under Windows Security, you choose Log Off. That will log you off of the virtual desktop from there. You can do that too. All right. Now, there's supposed to be a restart on here. I don't see it, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. So, again, what we did last time was we came in here and we built the interface for this. If you weren't here last time, you don't have the interface. I understand that. So especially for those of you who weren't here last time, if you look up on the screen and you see where my mouse is, I've got a shortcut that I've created for Visual Studio 2013. My suggestion is you make one right away too, and if you say I don't know how, that's what I'm going to show you right now. You click your Start button in your bottom left-hand corner, you go to All Programs, and you scroll down right near the bottom and you should see Visual Studio 2013. Then you click on that folder and it should bring up what you see on the screen. Then I would right mouse click where it says Visual Studio, just on Visual Studio 2013, drag it out here and choose Create Shortcuts here. Now you don't have to do that, but if you do that, you'll have a shortcut every time. You might also, if you want to, pin it to your taskbar down here, or status bar, whatever the heck they call this, and put it down there. But if you don't, then every time you're basically going to do the Start, All Programs, and if you want to do it like that, that works fine too. It really and truly doesn't matter. All right, you'll see I have both a shortcut here, and I've got one here. All right, which is dumb because now I probably just started up 2 sessions of this, and I did. All right, so this is your opening or your start page. And it'll look like this for everyone. Again, yours may not look exactly like mine. So when you start going through this stuff, and Anthony, like with yours, just log in again. It's gonna just ask you to log in one more time. Then you shouldn't have a problem. I mean, there are going to be times, same login, same password that you use normally. But there are going to be times in here when I do something and your screen may not look exactly like mine. Don't let that throw you at all. All right? That if I'm ahead of you or if I'm behind you or whatever, you'll get there. Now, if you look right here, I have no idea right now what it's doing. It might be doing some updates. It might be doing, I don't know. All right. But the point is, as you look at this, what you see up here is this is your start page. Sometimes you could care less about the start page, so you'll just close it. But what you can do is you can come in here and you can start up a brand new project by clicking the new project. You can open a project by clicking open project. If you've got projects that you've already created, you can open them up by there. And if you don't care, you can just click right there, and that'll close it. All right? I don't like the way this looks, so might be because I've got two instances of it running. I don't know. So I'm just going to start it up again. So in other words, I can close this. All right? Now, I want to show you something. You don't have to do this, especially those of you who were here the other day, but I want to show you this. What we're going to do virtually all of the time here is we're going to go File, New, Project. All right? So again, if I did that too fast, you can either click File on the menu, go to New on the menu, and Project on the menu, or you can do a Control-Shift-N, or you can click right here. Any of those will work. All right? So when you click this, yours, this is what I'm showing you right here. Yours may look like something god-awful that you don't want. All right? But what we should be able to do, and again, I've got the instructions for how to do this. They're out there on the folder with today's date on it. But I want to just show you it manually. All right? So if you don't like, if yours is not correct, you could click Browse, but then I think it makes you do it every single time, which is kind of a pain. So you should be able to then come in here and go to Tools, Options, Environment. In fact, let me grab it from over here because I want to. I'll bring up the exact instructions. I don't want to show you the wrong way. So, but I know this works because I went and reset it and then set it back again. And again, I pull this right off of msdn.microsoft.com. All right, so I'm going to show you both of these in just a second. That's the fonts. You don't care that much about that right now. The default location. So it says here on the Tools menu, select Options. This is it right here. This is the whole thing. That's all you got to do. It's not rocket science. It really and truly isn't. All right. So if you want to change that, again, you go to Tools, Options, okay? And from the Projects and Solutions folder, select General. So from the Projects and Solutions folder, there's Projects and Solutions. All right, let me close this environment thing. So there's Projects and Solutions, and click General. There it is. That's the project's location and the template's location. All right? You should be able to change it here, and I believe the other two may change for you automatically. But the key one you want is at project's location right there. All right, so you want to make sure yours says d:/users/your login, whatever it is. All right, and I don't want that location. I want that /desktop. All right, and I can do the same thing if I want to. I mean, look at all this stuff. I don't even know what the heck this is. Use the template project location. There might be some templates out there that I might need, so I'm not going to change that. But this one is the key one. So it should be d:/users/your username or your login /desktop. Okay, let's wait. Hold on. Let's do that. All right, so let's do that. So go to Tools, Import, Export Settings, and Reset. And if your box came up, when you first got into Visual Studio, if a box came up, literally, on the screen, and you just clicked, basically you told it to start, it's got it in alphabetic order. So it'll have probably Visual Basic before Visual C#. What that does is that says what is your default language you're using for a project. All right, so if you want, you can click here to reset all settings and go to Next, and then that box should come up again, and then just choose the Visual C#. All right, what that gives you, the reason that you might want to do that is when you come in and you do a file, new project, then what's going to come up here is Visual C Sharp. If you do it the other way, it'll come up with something like this, like the Visual Basic right here. This is not a Visual Basic class, this is a C Sharp class, although Microsoft tends to call it Visual C Sharp. All right. Now, if you had any problems with that, with what I just told you, if it didn't work or whatever, that's what your time during the break is for. You can ask me, you can ask John, you can ask Ben. All right, or you can go back to where I just showed you where that stuff was. All right, and you might have to, if you're working on this from home, you might have to reset it on your home machine too. All right, when we start up a new project, so when it looks like this, you'll notice that by default it comes up and it chooses Windows Forms application. That's what we're going to want virtually 100% of the time in this class. All right, and the other day we started to do this project that was from your book. All right, if you don't have a book, that's it. I heard they were running short or out of them. I ordered 24, so why they would be out of them is way the heck over my level of understanding. All right, but it could be a thing from the publisher. I have absolutely no idea. All right, but what we started working on was the program that's in this book on page 116. I want to show you this because I have a product on my machine that's called CoreSmart, where I can bring the stuff up from the book. So this is the project we started working on. It says in the sample programs you'll find a folder called Images Coins that has images, so it's got this image and this image. You say, well, where the heck is that? It's in the folder from last Monday. There's a folder inside of the folder under your in-class folder that's called 01-12-2015. In that folder is a folder called Images, and all of these images are in there. All right. So the idea is our interface is these two things, and we didn't create those last time. We're going to do that right now. All right. They're called picture boxes, and you put images inside of there. And then there's a button here, a button here, and a button here. I'm going to go back and rebuild everything I did last time. I'm going to do it kind of quickly. So if you weren't here last time, you might be a little bit behind. That said, don't worry about it. You have the completed project in your in-class folder. All right, it's in your in-class folder in the 01-14-2015 in-class folder. So it's in there. All right. Then what I'd like to do is, as much as possible, I'm going to go till 9 today, just till 9 o'clock. Then I'm going to give you your break. And after 9, I want to go over chapter 1 and go into chapter 2 in the book. Then what I plan on doing in this class next week when you come in here, it's not a test, it's not a quiz, but I'm literally going to give you a specification. I'm going to give you an hour, and I'm going to say, here, build this. You're not going to turn it in. So if you struggle, it's okay. You can ask me for help. You can ask the lab assistants for help. Then in the second hour, I'm going to build it right before your very eyes and show you how I did it. All right, and what that'll do is it'll start saying, oh, yeah, I did it like this. Oh, he did it like this. And you might find out that when you're doing it, some of the things you do, you might think are much more expedited or done in a better way than I do them. Then do them that way. All right, that's not a problem at all as far as I'm concerned. It really isn't. Okay. So again, I'm going to create this for you right now. So if you weren't here the other day and you want to follow along, great. But like I said, I'm going to do it fairly quickly. All right. Okay. So again, we came in here, I got to get back into the virtual desktop. So I'm in Visual Studio already. I call this coin flip. I don't think I've got one called heads, tails, so I'm going to call it that, heads, tails. When you are naming things in here, do not put blank spaces in your names. Do not put funny or funky characters in your name. In other words, don't put apostrophes or commas or anything else. You're just asking for trouble. And if it's two things in here like heads, tails, run the two words together and start each word in there capitalized. Does that make sense? Questions? All right, so I've got heads, tails. It's a Windows form application being saved onto my desktop. I click OK, and it's going to go through the process. There's my form. And I showed you this the other day, but again, in case you weren't there, it has now put a folder on my desktop someplace that's called heads, tails. It's already created that for me. All right, that's out there. All right, this is my form. I need it to be a little bit wider than it is, so if you see I've got these little nodules, nodes, whatever you call them here. So I'm going to take my mouse, put it over one of them, and just drag it over so it's a little bit wider. All right? And I've got my choice now how I do this. I can build the interface first. I can do some other stuff first. I don't ever like a gray form, so I'm going to click on the form right here, and I'm going to go up. If you don't have this showing here, this stuff, you're going to have to do a view, and this thing up here is the Solution Explorer, so you can find it right there. This is called your Properties window, so you'll find it in here someplace. All right? I'm going to suggest, although these things, they're docked right now, you technically can move them around. So if you like to move stuff around on your screen, there's also a way, going back into that tools thing John just showed, that you can reset it. But I just say you're best off just keeping it where it is. If you disagree and you want to move stuff around, that's your call. You can take either one of these and you can make it so I can make this as wide or as narrow as I need it to be, or as small or tall as I need it to be. All right? So the first thing I might want to do, and I guess I didn't say this, but with my form, all right, if I single click on the form, don't double click on it because it brings up a code window. But if I single click on the form, it says here Form 1. That's the name of the form right now. That's not a good name. So if I take it in my Properties window, notice I can go up and down. Okay, if I go up to the very top, you'll notice there's a name property that's called Form 1. All right, and we talked about this last time. Microsoft now, the new way of doing this is Microsoft says you should call this form followed by whatever you want it to be called. So I'm going to call this form heads, tails. Don't put any blank spaces in there. It doesn't like it when you have a blank space in. You say, I don't believe you. Okay, I'll put a blank space in. Form heads, space, tails, and I hit enter. When you get something like that, property value is not valid. You typically have tried to set something in your Properties window that the system didn't understand. I can click the details. Identifier form space, head space, tail space is not valid. So I say OK, and it removes whatever was there. So I come back and I say heads, tails with no space, hit enter. Now it changed it. So what I have done is I have now changed the name of my form from Form 1 to Form Heads, Tails. But if you look up on the screen right now, please, if everyone would, this up here is not the name of your project. That's the text that goes along with your form, right there. So for that, I've got to go in my Properties window, go down to where I find text, which is down near the bottom, and on there I'm going to put in Chapter 2, Program 5, heads or tails. All right, so I put all this in there. Chapter 2, Program 5, heads or tails. And you'll notice as soon as I do that and I move off of it, now notice how that's changed. The text can have spaces in it. The name of a property cannot have spaces in it. Does that make sense to everyone? All right, so what we've done so far is we've created a new project, we've renamed our form, and we've changed the text for the form. The next thing I want to do is change the color for the form because I don't like gray. There's nothing really wrong with it, but it could be better. So I'm going to click right there. I'm going to click on the form to make sure it's active. I'll get in my Properties window. I'm going to drag up near the top, maybe a third of the way down, and find the property called back color. All right, once I find back color, I'm going to click on it, and that brings a down arrow here. I'm going to click on the down arrow and choose custom. If I did that too fast, I'm going to do it again. Again, go all the way up to the top. Click on my form to make sure it's active. In my Properties window, I'm going to arrow down to where it says back color. Once I've got that, I'm going to click on that. It'll bring up the down arrow. I'm going to click the down arrow and choose custom. Now I can choose any color I want. All right. I think the other day I chose the kind of whatever fuchsia or whatever that is. Now I'll make it a little light purple. And you immediately see the change as soon as you've done that. As I said the other day, I don't care what colors you use. Please make them so I can read the stuff that's on the screen. But if you're really into wild colors, then you're into wild colors. All right, so again, I've created the form, I've changed the color of the form, I've changed the name of the form. So now I want to start to paint my interface. Now, when I stretch this out a bit, and I'm going to make my properties window smaller or narrower, but when I have this come out a bit, you'll notice I have this thing on the side here that you may not have. This is your toolbox. All right. Notice one thing. If I go and look at my code, see how my toolbox disappears? See, it just says this right here? Because there's no, right now, I can't access the tools. But when I go back again to my form, it pops back. If you don't have this showing here and you want to see it, you go to View, and you go down to Toolbox. Wherever the heck, there it is, Toolbox. Or there's a Toolbox icon, or you can do Control+WX. Why you'd ever want to do that one, I don't know. But if you like those kind of keyboard combinations, then go for it. All right. And this toolbox has got what's called a pin on it, this middle icon here. It's called Auto Hide. If I click it, it only shows it when I tell it to show. But if I click the pin again, it says I don't want to hide it. I want it to show. Now, if I did that too fast, or it's not working for you, raise your hand and John or Ben will come around and they'll help you with it. All right? We talked about this last time. There's two ways I can easily add new controls. I want to put 3 buttons. Remember again, what I want to create this. All right, this is what I want to create. So I want 3 buttons near the bottom. A show heads button, a show tails button, and an exit button. Everybody cool with that? So I want 3 buttons. All right? So with those 3 buttons, probably the easiest way to do that is, again, I'm going to show you 3 ways of doing it. And I may not have shown you all of these the other day, but I'm going to show you all 3. I can take my mouse, click on the left mouse button and drag, click and drag, click and drag. Oops. So that's one way. Okay, so I can create the 3 buttons that way. Or I can double click on the button, double click on button, double click on button. That's another way of doing it. Any of those ways will work. Or I can bring out a single button like this, do a Control-C to copy and a Control-V to paste. Any of those ways will work. I'm going through this now because next time I say, hey, create an interface and put 3 buttons on it, I'm not doing it again. All right? So, however you want to do it, please add 3 buttons to your form and position them basically. I'm just eyeballing this, and you see I get the little guides here. But position them so there's something like that. All right? And you'll notice that by default, when you add controls, it makes them the same color as your form. So I want to change the color on these. Now, I could change them all individually, and we looked at this last time. So I could click button 1. I could go all the way up to where it says back color, and I could manually change it that way. But if I want to change all 3 buttons at the same time, I hold down on my left mouse button and draw, or what's called lasso. So I start up above here, hold down on the left mouse button, drag down till they're all highlighted, and let go. Now all 3 buttons have been highlighted. Now when I go to back color and click my down arrow, and I like the gray that's right underneath white, so it's the first one in the second row, now they've changed. Now again, I've done this twice, so I don't feel the need to do it again. If for some reason you're having problems with it, all right, doesn't mean you're dumb or you're not going to get this stuff or anything else, but it means talk to John during the break, talk to me or Ben during the break, and we'll work with you at that time or after class. All right? Okay. The other thing I suggested to people last time is I'm going to do this, and I'm going to remove this button right away. But this is what I don't want you to do next. Everybody hear what I just said? Don't do this next. Don't double click on the button, because that brings up the code window. Before you bring up the code window, what you want to do, now I want to get rid of that button, and I want to bring it back again. All right, what you want to do, though, is before you go and double click to bring up the code window for the buttons, you want to rename your buttons. Remember, what it says here, button 1, button 2, and button 3, that's not the name of the button right there. That's the text for each button. That's what you see appearing on here. This is going to say show heads in a minute, show tails, and exit. All right? But what I want to do is I want to change the name of each button. So up here I go again and drag all the way up to the top of my properties window, find the name, and where it says button 1, I want to change it to button show heads. Alright, so if you haven't done that, you can do that. Hit enter, boom. Now I've changed the name. Then I'm going to go down to the text, and I want to change it from button 1 to show heads. It's not wide enough to show, or tall enough to show all of it now. We'll fix that in a minute. I'm going to go over to the next button. I'm going to change that text to show tails, and I'm going to change the button name from button 2 to button show tails. Then finally I'm going to go to button 3 and change its name from button 3 to button exit, and change its text to exit. Alright. Now again, that was review for those of you, and I know you're getting a little frustrated if you were here the other day, but again, I wanted to do this. This is the only time I plan on doing it this way. So, notice that this is supposed to say show heads, but it's not tall enough to show it. So I'd have to either make it wider if I wanted to show it, or I'd have to make it taller. Well, I'm going to make them all taller at the same time by, again, holding down on my left mouse button, drawing that invisible lasso around there, and then just dragging down a little bit so they all show. That's about where we left off last time, I believe. All right? So we're going to finish drawing the interface, and when we finish drawing the interface, we're going to take a break. We're probably not going to get to the to the book today. That's fine, then we don't. All right? Okay. There's different ways that you can create images. I'm going to show you the way that I consider to be the most straightforward way. We're actually going through something that's not covered until chapter 2 in your book. Believe me, you're all smart enough that you can get this. It really and truly isn't that hard. All right, I've told people before this, if I can do it, you can do it. All right, but if you look on your toolbox over here, you'll notice that you have a picture box right there. So I'm going to double click on this tool that says picture box, and that's going to stick one of them over here. Okay? I don't like the size. I want it to be about double the height that it is. So about right there. Now I could create another one, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy this. So I'm going to do a Control C, Control V, and put another one. So now I've got two picture boxes. Would everybody agree, taking a look up on the screen right now, there's nothing in either picture box. They're empty right now. What that means is that right now, that if I run the program, you're not even going to see them. They're invisible right now because first of all, they don't have an image associated with them. And second of all, we've got no code associated with them. So we're gonna work on all that after the break. But let's see if we can get these images in here first. I'm going to show you a way of doing this. If you say, is this the best way? I'm going to answer by saying, I'm going to show you a way of doing this. As we go through and do this, you might find better ways than the way I'm going to show you. Good for you. That's fine. All right, but I'm going to show you what I consider for right now to be the most straightforward way of you doing what I want you to do. All right? So I want you to take your mouse, and up on the top of your screen here, see where it says you got your project name and it says head tails? Everybody see that? I want you to right mouse click on there, and that should bring up this that you see right here. Just right mouse click. And then I want you to go down to add, and I want you to choose new folder. So we right mouse clicked, we chose add and new folder. Again, what I'm showing you is maybe not the most politically correct or best way. To me, what I'm about to show you is the most straightforward way of doing this. All right? So we're going to add a new folder. That folder, by default, typically, if you want to add images into a folder, you call it what it is. So you call that new folder images. And you notice it added a new folder, and I can hit enter then. Now I've got an images folder. There's nothing in it because I just added it. Now, did I do that too fast? Anybody need that repeated? Again, it was right mouse click on the name of your project right here, add new folder. All right? And then when it came up, it's called new folder, I think, by default. We changed the name to images. All right? All right. Now what we want to do for right now is now we want to right mouse click on that folder we just created, not up here again, but on that new folder. And we want to choose add, but not new folder, not new item. We want to add an existing item. All right? So I'm going to existing item. So the system has no idea where this existing item is that you want to add, where it is. Does that make sense to you? So what it thinks by default is, oh, it must already exist in your project folder someplace. All right? So unless you already have those images in there, and my guess is most of you don't, we're going to basically go out to the P drive and find them and copy them in. Does what I said make sense? We're going to grab those images from the P drive and incorporate them right into our program. So what I'm going to do over here is on the side where it shows all this stuff, I'm going to go down and find my P drive, right over here where it says classes, click on there. You kind of know the drill by now. I'm going to go over here, go over to double click on CIS, find 152, 142, C#, Spring 2015, in class, 112, 2015, and images. And you go, wow, you did that way too fast. In other words, the path that I gave it was that. Make it a little smaller. I gave it that path. All right. If you do give it that path, okay, if you do give it that entire path, you're going to look and you're going to go, Jeff, you made a mistake. It says there's nothing in there. Then you've got to go down here because it thinks you want to add a visual C# file. We don't. You're best off when you go to click the down arrow and go down to the very bottom and click all files. All right? And then notice, lo and behold, there they are. So you can either, right now, either highlight heads 1 and tails 1, or heads 2 and tails 2. You can really do all 4 if you want, but you're only going to use 2 of them. So I'm just going to grab heads 2 and tails 2 because they're highlighted right now. All right? Did what I just did make sense? You're either really good or everybody's really tired. All right? Maybe it's a little of both. I don't know. So now I'm just going to click add. And lo and behold, notice what I have now in my images folder. It's copied the heads2.bmp. It's a bitmap file. It's real cheesy looking, so don't worry about it. When we first bring it up, you're going to be like, we did something wrong, Jeff. No, you didn't. We'll fix it in just a minute. All right? Everybody, so I'm taking it that everybody's got that. Now what we have to do is we have to associate that control with that file and that control with that file. Does that make sense? And we've already got everything in place that we need to do. So make sure that your picture box 1, and in fact, you know what? Picture box 1, crummy name, isn't it? I think it is. So let's call it picture box show heads. And then let's call the other one picture box show tails. All right. One of my counterparts, and some of you may have heard me say this before, one of my counterparts who teaches these courses over at Fox Valley Technical College. Fox Valley, if you don't know it, that area, Appleton, they have Kimberly Clark there. They're really huge. They hire a ton of their graduates because they program in Visual Basic and in C#. He makes you do all this. He looks at everybody's program to make sure you've named things exactly the way he's told you. And if you don't do that, you lose a point every time. I said, what's the worst that somebody's ever done? And he said, I had a guy who didn't rename anything, and his first assignment he got it back and it was a -40. It was worth 20 points, so he was already 60 points in the hole. And I said, did you let him redo it? He said, hell no. He said, I explained it in class twice and told him what I wanted, and he didn't do it, so screw him. All right, basically that's what he told me. Now, I maybe am not to that extent, but if as you're going through here, there might come a time when you go to interview for a job and they ask for code samples. You don't want it where they're looking at your code and it's button 1, button 2, button 3. You don't, because you look like you're an amateur when you do that. And I'm not saying that you get the job because you called it picture box show heads, but at least it shows that you know how to name things. All right? So I'm on my picture box show heads that you see right there. And the easiest way I found to do this is if you look up on the screen here, do you see down here in your properties window, do you see where it says choose image right there? Everybody, do you have that on your screen? Just click right there on the hyperlink that says choose image. And it should bring this up if you did it right. Now, if we wanted to, if we did not want to bring those two images in that I just showed you, if we did not want to bring those in like we did to our program, we could choose and basically import it now from the system. In other words, we could tell it to go out to the P drive now and grab it. I didn't want to do that. I showed you the way I thought made more sense. We now have a local resource that we're going to be able to import. All right, we now have a local resource that we're going to be able to import. So I'm going to click the button that says local resource, and I'm going to click where it says import. All right, and you notice, oh, there it is. No, that's back at the P drive. I don't want to bring those in. I want to bring in my own things. So I'm going to go back to my desktop, and what was this? This was heads, tails, images, heads 2, and tails 2. So I can go there. There's other ways of doing it than what I just showed you. So I can go here, and I can click open, or I can double click it. And you say, wow, it's really big. We'll fix that in a minute. So I'm going to click OK. There's my first one. And it's so big, all you see is the corner of the coin. Don't worry about that. And if I did it too fast, I'm going to do the other one for you right now. So I'm going to click on where it says Show Tails. I'm again going to choose Show Image. There's what? Oh, there's a lot of ways that that don't say Choose Image? Okay. Okay. All right. There should be something here, too, that says Image in your Properties window. That right there. You can do it there, too. And if you click, it brings up the ellipse. It brings up the same thing. All right. So if yours didn't show Image, I apologize. Then just go into your Properties window, choose Image, and click, and it'll show in ellipses the 3 dots. And if you click the ellipses, that'll show this again. All right. So again, I'm going to choose Local Resource and Import. And now it has the one that I did before. So now I'm going to choose Tails 2 and Open and OK. And now I've got them both in there. You can see what the problem with both of these is right now. And that is I'm trying to shove 300 pounds into a 10-pound bag. So it's not going to work. So I'm going to click go back. It doesn't matter which one you do first. But I'm going to click my picture box Show Heads. And I'm going to go down here. And I've got to remember what it's called. Yeah, it's size mode. All right. So if again, I'm clicking on this. I'm going into my properties window for my picture box Show Heads. And down right near the bottom, there's a property called size mode. I'm going to click there, and I'm going to click zoom. Look a little better. And I'm going to go to the other one. I'm going to, again, go down in my properties window, down to size mode where it says normal. Click on it, which will bring the down arrow, and click zoom. And there it is. All right, now, we have to put code in there. So when we click this button, that'll show and that'll disappear. When we click this button, that'll show and that'll disappear. And when we click this button, that we're able to start. Does all that make sense? So that's what we're going to do after the break. It's about 9:05, so let's come back at 9:15. We'll see if we can knock out all the code for it. The code for this and the code for this, they're just 2 lines each. That's it. It's not a lot of code we have to write. Oh, okay. All right. And there's other ways too. There is even a drag that you could do that'll work, but it doesn't always work. All right. But thank you. I'll try to mention that after the break.